Hi and welcome to 24 Lines Per Second's review of the Anthony Hopkins starring Hitchcock, and also starring Helen Mirren. It's just come out in the last few weeks. And I think Wynter and Claire, you took a look at this one. So Wynter, what did you think?
Yep, okay. First of all, I thought it was quite interesting because, of course, over Christmas, BBC put out a TV film called The Girl, starring Sienna Miller and Toby Jones. Toby Jones, once again, playing a famous person in the slightly less budgeted film to the blah, 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 Capote, etc. I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's particularly about much, or it didn't tell me anything about Hitchcock or about Psycho that I didn't already know. But what I really liked about it was that it was a fun film. They gave his wife a character which the girl didn't deem to do, which was a bit odd. But they showed she was a successful woman in her own right. She's quite an interesting character as well, not just a wallflower, not just someone supporting him, actually someone, Hitchcock films were made by Hitchcock, and you could argue Hitchcocks. I got to say, I just enjoyed it. I felt there's a vein of humour going through it that is very, very much like the trailers to Hitchcock films. If you've seen any of those, like in Psycho when he goes upstairs and says, and here's the toilet, blah, 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 blah. There's a nice conceit they've got where he talks to Ed Gein, played by Michael Wincott, and him of the gravelly voice. I got to say, I thought it was a very good film. The only downside was not a very dramatic film, not a film you'd watch and go, I've got to go and watch a load of Hitchcock films now. But as a study of, I suppose, an eccentric and a certain type of cinema, yeah, good fun, good Christmas watch, which the other one wasn't, strangely.
Okay, and Claire, what did you think of it?
When I first heard the film was coming out, I got quite excited about it because it was really nice to actually see Hitchcock being spotlighted instead of just being the guy introducing the film. The guy he always says that he's the man hiding in the corner with a camera, and we just pull away and stare at him basically for the film. And it's with The Girl, I was really, really disappointed. The Girl takes us on the journey through him doing the birds, whereas this one was very much based on the book around the making of Psycho. So we watched The Girl first, which was the sequel to Hitchcock, of if you want to have a look at it in that respect. But one being Hollywood and one being the BBC. And I feel I'd rather watch his films than see him being represented by various people. I think it took a lot away from watching. When I rewatched The Birds, I thought, oh, now I know what happened in that scene behind the screen. But it wasn't actually what happened. It was just one person's perception of what happened. So now you're getting mixed messaging of what actually was happening, what was fiction, and the impact of what the film had on the audience. So for me, it was too much to try and take in and think about, is this representing Hitchcock or is this Hollywood's version of it? Is it someone's interpretation of it? I'd rather have Hitchcock here saying his own piece about the events of what happened during his time of filming.
Yeah, it doesn't. Like I say, it doesn't add anything to the film. I think there's a bad but mildly interesting film starring Danny Huston where he plays Orson Welles, and he essentially gets involved in a spying murder mystery type thing around some unnamed European city, and that kind of film, as kind of crappy as it was, and of course the what's the one about Nosferatu, is it Shadow of the Vampire?
Shadow of the Vampire,
yeah.
Which sort
of has a conceit that Max Schreck was actually a vampire. And I think both of those sort of crappy as they were in many ways, they told you a bit more about the
interesting
films.
way of telling the story.
They told you a bit more about the people behind it, and they had a lot of fun with it. This one is fun, but it does suffer from not really being about much. But Danny Huston's in it, and Danny Huston's brilliant in everything he's in. The guy playing Anthony Perkins,
Yeah, that was fantastic. I really loved his character.
That's really uncanny. I don't know how he can be in anything again, because he just looks. He's just Anthony Perkins. Really.
Yeah. And Scarlett Johansson, I think, played a really good Marion as well. But I think also what really did it for me was, as soon as anything's mentioned about murder and killing, and you got Anthony Hopkins playing the character, I just went straight back to Hannibal.
Yeah, there's a scene where he's it's like a pitch meeting with potential investors at
Yeah.
someone's house, and he's showing around these photos, and he starts chatting about Ed Gein, and all you can hear is Hannibal Lecter doing that
Haunted.
Yeah,
rubbish again.
But I definitely agree with you. There was some really good humour in it, and just to go and watch the film, if you don't know anything about Hitchcock, it's pretty good. But if you know exactly what's going to happen next, there's no conflict. There's nothing that's making me feel
this
anything.
is it, because you mentioned this. We'd spoken about this film previously a little bit, and Claire's sort of observation, which I think is the key to why the film doesn't quite work, is that Psycho was really successful and awesome. So there's no, like you said, there was no jeopardy as to what they were doing, because the story is very interesting that he went and was basically told, you're not going to have any money to make this horrible book into a film. And so he said, all right, I'll do it in black and white, I'll do it with my own money, I'll put my house up. But even when they're saying that, you're kind of like, oh wow,
there's no risk.
Worked out well for you.
We know exactly what happened. But I definitely agree with you about seeing the perspective from his wife's point of view, that she used to be his boss. She in her own right is a really good screenwriter and should have been credited at the end, because she did rewrite the ending of Psycho, and I think that's probably a really good eye-opener for people who don't know much about Hitchcock, is that his wife was very much a part of the whole process, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. And a lot of the as with a lot of things about artists, I always just think, you know what, if you want to know about what Hitchcock films, go and watch some Hitchcock films.
That's exactly how I feel. Yeah.
So that's probably the best recommendation to come out of it. It's an okay film.
It'll be on
worth going to
telly, and you'd be really pleased watching it. I think.
But if you want to know a bit more, just go and watch the films in their original form.
Yeah.